Previous session, we talked about what is GC content, what is its importance, what is TM value, how to find out TM value, so on and so forth. All right. Now the concern is what is the relationship between GC and TM? So in this context, we are discussing a paper by Doty et al., which was, of course, a old paper, but it is very important to see the validity of the processes, which are thought to be one of the important components when it is polyphasic approach and genotypic data analysis is concerned. Right. So in this, they had 41 samples of bacteria. The DNA sequence of these bacteria isolates were known, yet they had made an effort to validate the data by using the GC content and TM value determination. So they had calculated TM value, they had calculated the G plus C content, and of course it was in tune with what was obtained by base sequencing of the DNA. So what was the correlation that they had used for a solvent containing zero point 0.2 molar Na? Tm value is equal to 69.3 plus 0.41 in the bracket G C contained, where Tm is the degree centigrade and Gc refers to the mole percentage of guanine plus cytosine. So this equation is important and to be remembered in many of the competitive examinations. You are asked to calculate the Tm value. So where you can use this particular formula provided you are using UV spectrophotometer hypochromicity phenomena to determine the TM value. Right? The deviation of experimental points uh, from this relation are no more than that expected from the uncertainties of base analysis and the variation of a half degree in the reproducibility of determining the TM value. So it appears that the measurement of Tm is satisfactory means of determining base composition in DNA. The Tm value are most simply measured by following absorbance at 260 mu, that is wavelength we are talking about, as a function of temperature of the DNA solution, and noting down the midpoint of hypochromic rise. Right? And what is the quantity of DNA required is 10 to 50 micrograms. So this is the very old paper and the standard method to find out relation between TAM and GC is given. So this equation can be very well used when you are asked to calculate the TM value, or when you are asked to calculate GC based on the TM value given. Right? So TM is equal to 69.3 plus 0.41 in bracket G plus C. Now, are there any other methods to find these GC content? Yes, a rapid method. uh, I could find one paper that talks about use of fluorescence and monitoring fluorescence intensity during DNA maturation. So UV absorbance was the principle, measurement of absorbance of UV light by melting DNA. That was the first principle. Now here is a second method whose principle is measurement of fluorescence intensity when DNA is undergoing denaturation, and it is done in a capillary tube. So again, the quantity of DNA required, efficiency, the intensity of the signals are going to be high throughput as against that of UV spectrophotometer. So here is a simple and rapid method to determine G plus C content. Bacterial chromosomal DNA they had used. So instead of conventional thermal denaturation methods, they had monitor absorbance at 260 nanometer. uh, Thermal denaturation on monitor, right? But how it was monitored? By decrease of fluorescence intensity. So decrease of fluorescence intensity, that means there is something that is adding fluorescence. So like ETBRU you add to gel electrophoresis to give fluorescence and detect DNA. But here it is not ETBR, but it is SYBR green one, that fluorescent agent is added, and then the apparent TM value of the DNA is measured. Now, the concentration of SYBR green 1, DNA content, and salt are the factors which are going to decide the efficiency of the method, and TM value otherwise would be altered. Like in the case of spectrophotometric method, we had talked key ionic strength and pH are the major factors which are going to determine the TM value. Similarly, here salt concentration, DNA quantity, and the amount of fluorescent dye that is added to the melting DNA is important. So in addition, when GC content was calculated, now see the linear equation that is used. Mole percent of G plus Cx is equal to mole percentage of G plus Cr plus 1.99 in the bracket Tmx minus Tmr. So you are seeing here there are suffix m, suffix x, suffix r. In earlier equation you had only tm, m was a suffix, but here you have cx, cm, tmx, tmr. These are the different terms. So what is x and what is r? So x is the unknown organism and y is the reference organism. So what is important here? You are comparing this method's performance with the help of a standard, with the help of a reference. What is the reference? A bacterial isolate whose DNA is completely sequenced, whose TM value is already calculated, whose GC content also is known. Both of these are simultaneously processed, and based on comparison, you are going to calculate back the TM value and the GC content of the sample bacterial isolate. So this is another method just to trigger your interest that how methods are improvising, what kind of advancements are happening in the technique, right? But again, the ultimate concern is to find out the GC content. Now next comes DNA hybridization methods, right? So when I say DNA hybridization, it is another technique. So DNA hybridization, DNA RNA hybridization also is there. But yes, when I say hybridization, that means mixing of the two DNA. Probably you have learned this concept in DY. So once the DNA is denatured, that is molten, the two strands are separated, and the two strands are obtained from one isolate, and another two strands isolated from another isolate, that is bacteria 2. And if you mix the DNA strands, the separated DNA strands, the molten DNA strands which are obtained from two different isolates, and you mix them, what would happen? Is it possible that the two strands of one isolate will reunite and give you original DNA of sample A? Same with sample B. They will reunite and give you the DNA of its own. Or is there any possibility that these single strands will randomly mix and randomly join up or anneal up and give you a hybrid DNA? If that happens, that means they are close to each other. They are not really very much different. Then and then only you will be having, going to have complete hybridization. So percent hybridization will indicate base similarity, or you can say base dissimilarity. Also, you can calculate back. So when it comes to DNA hybridization, the reassociation method in bacterial classification, yes, it is useful in finding out species using and it's accepted by Committee on Systematics. So what are the recommendations of this committee? The bacterial species generally would include the strain with 70% or greater DNA hybridization values with 5 degrees Celsius or less difference in TM values, right? This is what we had talked in the beginning of yesterday's session also. So you must consider both these values when you are talking about genotypic matching, right? However, it must be noted that this technique gives relative percent of similarity, but not actual sequence identity. Hybridization may some errors. Can you think, yes, AT and GC are going to pair? What is the probability that if it is in place of adenine and thymine coming in front of each other, if it is adenine and cytosine coming in front of each other, what is the probability of formation of bonds? You know bond pairing, bond formation and base pairing. So what are the functional groups that are involved in bond formation? You are aware of it. So maybe this A and C will get stabilized with single hydrogen bond, yet DNA is hybridized, right? You will not have a gap as such, right? So there are what do you say are the limitations, but yes, it is yet reliable method. It reliable, not as much as reliable as when you are finding out actual sequence. We have learned in earlier lectures what are the different methods to find out actual sequence, right from Sanger's method to very advanced nanopore method. All these methods we have discussed. So this technique, when you are referring to finding out relatedness on the basis of DNA reassociation, high temperature DNA can be denatured, but the molecule can be brought back to its native state by lowering down the temperature, and we call it as reassociation. We know it. So it is based on three parameters. What are the three parameters that are going to decide the success of this or efficiency of this method? Number one is G plus C content in terms of mole percentage. Second, ionic strength of the solution. And third, the melting temperature of the hybrid DNA. So that is going to decide how stable is the hybrid formed. So TM is the only one variable parameter out of the three. All right. So it is quite possible that when you are doing this kind of experiment, buffer concentration may be kept constant. So ionic strength, pH, all these factors can be monitored and maintained. So out of the three factors, one factor is constant, that is ionic strength. What about the TM value, which is going to be a variable parameter? So, more the similarity between the heteroduplexes, more temperature will be required to melt it, and higher will be the TM value. All right. So, vice versa also is true. That is, if similarity is less, heteroduplexes will be less stable, and at very low temperature also it will separate out. So in that case, you will have low TM value. So if they are less stable, that means they are not compatible. That means they are obtained from different organisms belonging to different species or maybe different genus. It depends. Now, DNA hybridization, when we talk, it has been criticized from time to time that there are high experimental errors, inaccurate reproducibility of the results, and failure to generate cumulative database. That is what is time to time been claimed about. So, of course, though we talk about genotypic methods, they are better in terms of efficiency, but no single method can give you 100% accuracy to navigate the positioning of the isolate into a particular taxa or a species or a genus, right? So, always there is ask for can we have a reliable and accurate and alternative methods. Of course, not a single method, but I would suggest ki when you collect the data from various methods and that data is put together for analysis, then probably we are going to lead in a right direction. Here I am presenting a summary diagram which tells you about various uh, methods or tools that are utilized to gain the genotypic information uh, when classification is an ultimate aim, right? So when you talk about the three major components which are related to a bacterial cell, proteins are important, RNA is another one, and DNA is one. So when it comes to total DNA or total DNA segments, they can be analyzed to extract the information for taxonomic positioning of that bacteria. So let's see what are those. So mole percent of G plus C, then restriction patterns, RFLP and PFG. PFG we have talked, RFLP. If you want, we can do it in details in the next lecture. Then genome size and DNA hybridization. Just now we spoke about DNA hybridization and the importance of that. Now, when it comes to DNA segments, PCR based DNA amplifications, right? So, ribotyping or ARDRA, right? RAPD and RFLP are the some of these techniques. 16S RNA, when you are talking about some segment of entire genome, right? And that too 16S rRNA part of it. उसमें से भी conserved sequence and certain ITS regions you amplify and check the similarity. So it is DNA segments that are analyzed to find out percent similarity in the genome sequences and for taxonomic positioning. Of course, DNA probes and DNA sequencing are the ultimate methods. When it comes to RNA based sequencing, and you may go for RNA profiling, right? So depending upon what amount of particular RNA is expressed in a given bacteria under given environmental parameters, that also can help you to find out the positioning, taxonomic position of the organism in a given niche. So that would come under metagenomics part. So functionality is the parameter over here in addition to sequence. Next comes proteins. Yes, electrophoretic profiling of the proteins. So total cellular proteins, envelope proteins, you can find out total enzymes that are prepared uh, or produced by that organism, that you can find out. So all these again, when it comes to proteins and enzymes, it is about metabolisms, comes as a part of metagenomics. And second dimension is chemotaxonomic markers and other expressed features like morphology, etc. So these total are utilized in all together in supplementary mode, are utilized to extract the data and to correlate it, and then to find the taxonomic position of the organism. So all genotypic, phenotypic and phylogenetic information is incorporated in polyphasic taxonomy. Right. So this is the overview of um, the different tools. Right. Now, if you permit me to talk for 10-15 minutes more, I would like to discuss with you the polyphasic approach to a little detail, instead of going for any one technique, because every time in one lecture we can discuss about one or two techniques, it can be remembered very well. But if I just take two, three, four techniques at a time, it is going to be confusing. So I'm going to just talk to you about DNA hybridization here onwards. Okay. Now DNA hybridization, we know now that you have to denature the DNA, you have to annihilate along with the standard and unknown or two unknown, like that you are going to mix and check the degree of hybridization. So percent DNA hybridization is one of the important markers, and decrease in the thermal stability of the hybrid. What are the two factors? The percent DNA hybridization and decrease in the thermal stability of the hybrid. These two things are utilized to delineate a species, that is to identify the species. The percent DNA binding, when I say, or DNA hybridization value, when I say, or it also can be said as relative binding ratio. All these things mean same. Relative binding ratio, DNA hybridization value, percent hybridization, all these mean same. When you talk about this, these are an indirect parameter, right? As I said, A may pair with C, maybe with single bond, yet hybrid will be there, hybridization will be there. So is it a direct method? No, you are dependent on the bonds which are going to get formed, and it may be one bond in place of two or in place of three also, but yet you will get the hybrid formed. So the concern is this method is indirect parameter. DNA hybridization is a indirect parameter when you are talking about, as against that, sequence similarity between two genomes. हाइब्रिडाइज हो रहे हैं मतलब सेम है, सीक्वेंसेस कॉम्प्लीमेंटरी 100% है, ऐसे नहीं होता है. सो इट इज सेड टू बी एज इनडायरेक्ट मेजर. It is established that thermal stability decreases by say 1 to 2% for each 1% mispairing. Base pairing में mispairing हो सकता है, as I said, A pairing with C. So if that is happening, then the thermal stability will decrease by 1 or 2%. मतलब यदि 100 बेस में से एक बेस पेयर रॉन्ग है, तो TM वैल्यू 1 to 2% से कम आएगी. Are you getting me? So uh, it is not 100% proof method. It's an indirect approach. So limitations are there. Of course, it is highly debatable whether this data, which is obtained with short oligonucleotides and experimentally induced mispairing, can be extrapolated to entire genome. Now ये किसने बताया होगा भाई कि भाई if there is 1% mismatch, then 1 to 2% TM value change occurs. Of course, experiments are done with the help of small oligonucleotide stretches, which are artificially synthesized or obtained from the natural genomes, but the other fragments and experiments are done with that. So and then they have found that yes, there is variation in TM value if there is mismatch happening. But concern is when you are working with a small fragment and getting some equation that is 1% change in mispairing will lead to 1 to 2% change in TM. Can it be applied when you are dealing with the entire genome sequence? Right? Can it be extrapolated? That is a concern. Right? So when you are talking about this, a big question is ki what you see in small fragments, shall it be extrapolated to entire genome analysis? Of course, uh, always it is not really possible to convert percent of DNA binding or DNA hybridization value in percentage of whole genome sequence similarity. इन दोनों मेथड्स की इम्पोर्टेंस कम हो गई क्या? नहीं, दे हैव देयर इम्पोर्टेंस, बट येट देयर आर सम लिमिटेशंस व्हेन यू आर प्लेइंग विद द whole genome by GC for GC analysis, whole genome for TM value, is it possible? And whole genome for sequencing. Yes, sequencing is possible by NGS methods. Now, entire genome at a time can be sequenced. We have learned about it. So that is one kind of a remark you can say when it comes to DNA hybridization studies for as a tool in polyphasic taxonomy. Another thing is that there are different methods which are used. So DNA hybridization जब आप बोलते हो, so it's not a single method. Like for TM value, we have seen two different methods. One is spectrophotometric method, another is fluorescence spectrophotometric method. एक UV पे है, एक fluorescence पे है. वैसे ही when it comes to DNA hybridization method, one method is hydroxyapatite method, second method is optical renaturation rate method, and third is S1 nuclease method. So there are three methods which are most commonly used. Now the thing is, which of these is going to be best, or where is the better advantage that you are going to get? It is suggested that optical renaturation rate method is good because it does not need to label the DNA. But the inconvenience here is it is not allowing delta TM determination. All right. So, uh, based on optical renaturation, fine. You don't need any labels. But point is, you have inconvenience because delta TM determination cannot be done. And then taxonomically, it is found to be insignificant below 30%. So it has got limitations. If you talk about hydroxyapatite method of DNA hybridization, then and compare it against the other two method procedures, like say S1 nuclease method to determine TM, and if they are compared, then again the optical renaturation method is more reliable. All right. Uh, delta TM values जो है that is more important to be determined, and more similar relative binding ratios can be obtained when you are using S1 D81. Of course, this number indicates the number of given to that, or the numerical identity of that enzyme S1 depending on the isolate, right? So delta TM value के बारे में जब बात करते हैं, optical renaturation method is not good, but S1 nuclease method and hydroxyapatite methods are better. So these are the three classical methods, yet they have some limitations. So you cannot rely on any single method, but you have to go with compiling the data from different methods and then find a track ahead. Now, new quick methods which consume less DNA and have better efficiency also are known. Right? They are promising and they replace the classical methods. But before that also, before they replace the classical methods, you must compare them with the uh, earlier methods and compare their performance with respect to the conditions under which you are performing it. So large number of DNA hybridization protocols are described, and hybridization performed under optimal or stringent or suboptimal conditions are going to give uh, little variations. So stringency in the reaction is very important. And as I said earlier, in most of the cases, it is the salt concentration the ionic strength of the buffer, and the temperature, which is going to decide the efficiency of the process, and of course quantity of DNA, right? So what exactly works for a small stretch of DNA may not work for 2.3 into 10 raised to 6 kilobase sequence that is obtained or that represents the entire genome, right? So quantity of DNA, salt concentration, and the temperature are the governing factors when we talk about G plus C content, DNA hybridization, and TM as the tools in polyphasic taxonomy, right? So melting temperature can be calculated from the salt concentration and DNA base ratio. So interdependency and interlinking is there, but concern is whether it is stringently maintained or not. So the melting temperature and the optimum hybridization decrease by zero point 0.6 degrees for each percent of salt variation इज ऑल्सो देयर। जैसे मैंने आपको पहले बोला कि टीएम का वैल्यू एंड जीसी कंटेंट का कोरिलेशन एंड हाइब्रिडाइजेशन का कोरिलेशन इज गोइंग टू चेंज। वन मिसमैच इज इक्वल टू चेंज इन सॉरी 1% मिसमैच इज इक्वल टू 1 to 2% डिक्रीज इन टीएम वैल्यू। वैसे ही 0.6 डिग्री वेरिएशन इन मेल्टिंग टेम्परेचर एंड हाइब्रिडाइजेशन टेम्परेचर is going to give you variation in TM value, but this variation again is controlled by addition of the salt or formamide that is the part of melting experiment. So ये जो stringency factor है that needs to be very meticulously executed, right? So last 2 minutes and we will conclude. जैसे DNA hybridization का हमने बोला, वैसे ही rRNA homology studies, that is the next type of tool you can say, right? Now it is now accepted that ki rRNA is the best target for phylogenetic studies, and it can give you a good phylogenetic relationship overview. Uh, so yes, it is because it is composed of very highly conserved as well as more variable domains. When you talk about rRNA, what is the importance? It has got some sequences which are highly conserved. At the same time, there are certain domains which are variable. So when you talk about components of the ribosome, the rRNA and ribosomal proteins, both are being subjected to phylogenetic studies, right? So new molecular techniques you have which focus on comparative study of rRNA molecules, but in direct comparison by hybridization studies or rRNA cataloging of RNAs T1 resistant oligonucleotides of 16S rRNA, I repeat, indirect comparison by hybridization studies or indirect comparison when I'm saying is one method. Second method is rRNA cataloging of RNAs T1 resistant oligonucleotides. RNAs T1 resistant oligonucleotides of 16S RNA, they have been discussed over decades, and the relationship within the number of bacterial lineages with reference to these two factors have been explored and utilized in taxonomic positioning of bacteria. Of course, sequencing of rRNA molecules has come up, and you have databases which talk about जैसे डीएनए सीक्वेंस होता है पूरे जीनोम का, वैसे आरआरएनए सीक्वेंस डेटाबेस they are there. It's not that only you are talking about 16s rRNA regions, but rRNA sequence database of 5s rRNA, which is the first RNA molecule that has been sequenced from many bacteria, because 5s rRNA is simple, small, less complex. There are minimum secondary structures, right? So it is been used. 16s RNA gene sequencing, yes, direct sequencing after cloning of the genes into the bulk of the DNA that is there. Sequencing of 16S rRNA with conserved primers and reverse transcriptase, that also is one of the important tools in bacterial phylogeny, right? So rRNA भी बोलते हैं, तो rRNA का hybridization studies, rRNA का RNase T1 resistant oligonucleotide studies, rRNA का 5s rRNA sequencing, rRNA में 16s rRNA sequencing. All these tools are there and are used, right? And the most important advance, if you talk in bacterial phylogeny, that is 16s rRNA sequencing. Yes, and that is what we always talk first. कि yeah, bacterial taxonomy करनी है तो 16s rRNA. But nowadays, these techniques have mostly been replaced by direct sequencing of parts, parts of 16s or parts of 23s. Complete sequencing भी कोई करता नहीं है. So what you use is PCR. You select the particular amplicon in the 16s region, that is the ITS regions, for example, which are the most conserved regions, and you go for amplifying those and sequencing those. Uh, for that, you need the appropriate primers. That is only important and a tricky thing to design the primers. But overall, it is part of that 16s conserved region is amplified and sequenced. So phylogenetic framework, when we talk using 16s rRNA, you can say it as a backbone of the modern microbial taxonomy, 16s rRNA sequencing. All right. So how it is done, that we will see in the next lecture. It was just to tell that yes, 16s rRNA hybridization experiment and 16s rRNA sequencing. These two things will be the target for next lecture. Thank you. Any queries?